I found my girlfriend's secret Instagram where she posted, single and ready to mingle. So I didn't argue, I made my own. Sometimes the truth hits you in the most ordinary moments, like when you're sitting on someone's couch waiting for them to finish getting ready for dinner. I'd been dating Bethany for 8 months, and I genuinely thought we were building something real together. I was scrolling through TikTok on her tablet while she did her makeup when I accidentally clicked on her profile icon instead of the home button. That's when I discovered freespirit_Brie, an account I'd never seen before with 4,200 followers and her face plastered all over it. The bio read, single and exploring life sparkles, Cleveland girl living my best life, 2 hearts, DM me. My stomach dropped as I realized I was looking at 10 months of content where my supposedly committed girlfriend was presenting herself as completely available. The videos showed her in outfits I'd never seen, dancing provocatively in locations I didn't recognize, responding to dozens of thirsty comments with heart emojis and flirty messages like, maybe we should meet up sometime, and, I love confident men who know what they want. I screenshot everything with shaking hands, my mind racing as I processed what I was seeing. Here was the woman I'd introduced to my family last month, the one who talked about our future together, maintaining an elaborate double life where I simply didn't exist. The comments section was a goldmine of evidence, months of her scheduling coffee dates, giving out her phone number, and arranging to meet followers at bars and events around Cleveland. I scrolled through weeks of her responding to direct messages with promises to meet up, giving out her actual phone number to random men who complimented her dance moves, and even coordinating specific times and locations for coffee dates and drinks. One particularly damning exchange showed her telling a follower named Marcus that she'd be free Saturday afternoon for lunch, the same Saturday she'd told me she was visiting her sister Ashley in Akron. Another conversation revealed her planning to meet someone named Tyler at a downtown bar during what she described to me as a mandatory work networking event. The level of coordination was staggering. She had created an entire parallel social life where potential romantic connections were carefully scheduled around our relationship. I heard her heels clicking down the hallway and quickly closed the app, forcing my face into a neutral expression as she emerged looking beautiful and completely innocent. She kissed my cheek and asked if I was ready for dinner, acting like the perfect girlfriend while I sat there knowing she'd been advertising herself as single for our entire relationship. The irony wasn't lost on me that I was a warehouse operations manager who specialized in logistics and inventory tracking, yet I'd completely failed to notice the massive discrepancy in my girlfriend's emotional inventory. During dinner at our usual Italian place, I watched her laugh at my jokes and hold my hand across the table, the same hand that had been typing flirty messages to strangers just hours before. She talked excitedly about a work conference next week that would require an overnight stay in Columbus, and I wondered how many of her followers she'd planned to meet during this business trip. The cognitive dissonance was overwhelming. This was the same woman who got jealous when female coworkers liked my Facebook posts, yet she'd been running what amounted to a personal dating service behind my back. I maintained normal conversation while internally cataloging every lie she'd told me about girls' nights, family visits, and late work meetings that now took on sinister new meanings. When she excused herself to the bathroom, I saw her phone light up with multiple notifications from the TikTok app, and I realized this wasn't just some old account she'd forgotten about. This was active, ongoing deception happening in real time while we shared dessert. I spent the rest of dinner analyzing her behavior with the same attention to detail I used for managing supply chain discrepancies at work, noting how she kept checking her phone, how her stories about recent activities suddenly had gaping holes, and how many of her supposed friend hangouts now seemed suspiciously vague when I asked for details. I spent that entire night staring at the ceiling, oscillating between wanting to confront Bethany immediately and crafting a more strategic response that would expose her hypocrisy completely. By morning, I decided that if she could maintain a secret online persona, then so could I, except mine would actually reflect reality. I created an Instagram account with the handle upgraded_n_free during my lunch break at the warehouse, using professional photos from my recent promotion celebration to operations manager and some gym shots my buddy Derek had taken the previous weekend. My bio was simple but pointed. 29 in Cleveland, newly single and upgrading my standards, bachelor life treating me right, flexed biceps. I posted my first photo that evening while Bethany was in the shower, a picture of me in my best suit from the company awards dinner with the caption, "Finally free to be authentic about my relationship status. No more pretending or games." Within an hour, I had 30 likes and several comments from coworkers and friends asking about the sudden relationship change, but I kept my responses vague and mysterious. The second post went up the next morning. A gym selfie with "single man working on becoming the best version of himself. No time for fake people or fake relationships." I watched the follower count climb steadily as people became curious about my sudden transformation from committed boyfriend to confident bachelor. The genius of my strategy became apparent within 48 hours when Bethany's close friend Monica liked my third post, a photo of me at a new downtown restaurant with the caption, "Exploring the city as a free man. Amazing what you discover when you're not being lied to." I knew Monica would immediately screenshot everything and send it to Bethany, which meant my girlfriend would soon be experiencing the same stomach-dropping shock I'd felt discovering her secret account. I maintained complete normalcy during our planned weekend activities, suggesting we visit the art museum and try that new brunch place she'd been mentioning, all while monitoring my phone for the inevitable explosion. Bethany seemed increasingly distracted throughout Saturday, constantly checking her phone and receiving what appeared to be urgent calls from her inner circle that she'd step away to answer in hushed, panicked tones. She kept asking me random questions about my work schedule and whether I had any new social media accounts, questions I deflected with the same casual dismissiveness she'd perfected when I asked about her mysterious late-night phone calls. By Sunday evening, my Instagram had gained 150 followers, including several mutual friends and even some people from Bethany's marketing company who were clearly investigating on her behalf. I posted a photo of my apartment looking cleaner and more organized than usual, captioned, "Spring cleaning feels so good. Removing toxic energy and dishonest people from my life." The comments section became a battlefield as friends tried to piece together what had happened to our seemingly stable relationship, with some people defending Bethany and others applauding my newfound honesty. I watched Bethany's anxiety build throughout the weekend as her phone buzzed constantly with messages from concerned friends sharing screenshots and asking for explanations she clearly wasn't prepared to give. The beautiful irony was that while she'd been living a double life for months, I'd achieved the same level of social media disruption in just 3 days by simply telling the truth about my actual relationship status. Monday morning brought the confirmation I'd been waiting for when Bethany texted me asking if we could talk that evening about something important, her message lacking the usual heart emojis and casual affection that typically characterized our communication. Monica must have finally shown Bethany my Instagram account Monday afternoon because the explosion came via text around 3 o'clock while I was coordinating a shipment delivery at the warehouse. Her messages arrived in rapid succession, each one more frantic than the last, demanding to know what I thought I was accomplishing by posting lies about being single and humiliating her publicly. I waited until my shift ended to respond, simply asking if she wanted to meet at the coffee shop near her apartment to discuss whatever was bothering her, maintaining the same innocent tone she'd perfected while scheduling meetups with her followers. When I arrived, she was already there looking furious and cornered, her phone face down on the table like she was afraid of receiving more notifications. She immediately launched into accusations about my social media posts, calling them vindictive and cruel, demanding that I explain why I was trying to destroy our relationship with public lies. I let her finish her rant before calmly asking if she had something called free spirit_Brie that she wanted to discuss, watching her face go white as she realized I knew everything. Her initial response was textbook gaslighting, claiming the TikTok account was just harmless fun for building confidence and expressing her creative side, insisting that responding to comments was meaningless social media interaction that I was blowing completely out of proportion. She tried to minimize 10 months of deception as innocent entertainment, suggesting I was being paranoid and controlling for even checking her social media activities. When I mentioned the specific conversations I'd screenshot where she'd arranged coffee dates and given out her phone number, she shifted tactics and claimed those were just friendly conversations with people she'd never actually intended to meet. The desperation in her voice became more apparent as she realized her explanations weren't working, alternating between anger at my supposed invasion of privacy and panic about the damage to her reputation from my posts. She demanded that I delete my Instagram account immediately, claiming it was humiliating her at work and causing problems with her family, never once acknowledging that she'd been actively advertising herself as single while in a committed relationship with me. The hypocrisy was staggering. She was furious about 3 days of my honest posts while completely dismissing 10 months of her elaborate deception. I pointed out that my account accurately reflected my relationship status since she'd clearly been single this entire time based on her online behavior, which caused her to break down crying and accuse me of being cruel and vindictive. She tried every manipulation technique in the book, claiming she loved me and begging me to understand that her social media presence didn't mean anything real, that I was the only person who truly mattered to her despite all evidence to the contrary. When guilt and tears didn't work, she became angry again, suggesting that maybe we both needed space to figure out what we wanted, apparently not realizing that her secret account had already answered that question definitively. I remained calm throughout her emotional roller coaster, simply stating that I was tired of pretending to be in a relationship with someone who had been publicly single for months, and that my Instagram posts were just catching up with reality. The conversation ended when she stormed out after I refused to promise to delete my account, shouting that she'd never forgive me for humiliating her this way, which was rich coming from someone who'd been humiliating our relationship daily for nearly a year. The real bombshell came 2 days later when Bethany's sister Ashley reached out to me through Facebook Messenger with information that made everything infinitely worse. Ashley had apparently been wrestling with guilt about covering for Bethany's behavior and decided she couldn't stay silent after witnessing the social media drama unfold. She revealed that those supposed family visits to Akron had actually been elaborate alibis for Bethany to meet followers from her TikTok account, with Ashley providing fake confirmations whenever I asked about Bethany's whereabouts during weekend trips. The level of premeditation was staggering. Bethany had been using her own family as accomplices in orchestrating meetups with potential romantic interests she'd connected with online. Ashley shared screenshots of text conversations where Bethany had explicitly asked her to lie to me about family gatherings that never happened, providing detailed cover stories about birthday parties and family dinners that were actually coffee dates and bar meetups with men from her follower list. What made Ashley finally come forward was learning that Bethany had been planning to meet 3 different followers during her upcoming Columbus work conference, essentially turning a business trip into a week-long dating expedition while I remained completely oblivious at home. The betrayal escalated dramatically when Bethany's mother Patricia showed up at my workplace Thursday afternoon, demanding to speak with me about what she called my vindictive social media campaign against her daughter. Patricia marched into the warehouse reception area in full protective mother mode, insisting that I was destroying Bethany's reputation and mental health with my posts, and suggesting we needed couples therapy to work through our communication problems. The irony of being lectured about communication by the mother of someone who'd maintained a secret dating profile for 10 months wasn't lost on me, but I remained respectful while explaining that I'd simply posted truthful information about my relationship status. Patricia seemed genuinely shocked when I mentioned freespirit_Bree and showed her some of the screenshots I'd saved, watching her face change from defensive anger to horrified realization as she processed the evidence of her daughter's systematic deception. She tried to minimize the situation by claiming that young people today had different ideas about social media boundaries, but her argument fell apart when I showed her the specific conversations where Bethany had arranged actual meetups with followers. The conversation became increasingly uncomfortable as Patricia realized she was defending behavior she couldn't justify, eventually admitting that she'd been concerned about some of Bethany's secretive behavior but had assumed it was harmless social media attention-seeking rather than calculated relationship sabotage. Our mutual friends began taking sides as the full scope of the situation became public knowledge, with some defending Bethany as someone who'd made innocent mistakes while others condemned her calculated dishonesty and the family conspiracy that enabled it. Monica and several other friends accused me of being vindictive and unnecessarily public about private relationship issues, while others appreciated my transparency about what had actually caused our breakup rather than letting rumors and speculation fill the void. The most damaging revelation came when Ashley shared that 2 of Bethany's previous relationships had ended under similar circumstances, with ex-boyfriends discovering secret social media accounts and evidence of emotional cheating that Bethany had successfully covered up with family alibis and gaslighting tactics. The social media warfare reached peak intensity when Ashley posted a cryptic message about family loyalty and honesty that sent shockwaves through Bethany's social circle and effectively ended any hope of damage control. Ashley's post read something about being tired of covering for family members who manipulate good people and how real loyalty means not enabling destructive behavior, which prompted dozens of comments from confused friends and family members demanding explanations. Within hours, the post had generated enough speculation that people started connecting it to the drama surrounding my Instagram account and Bethany's mysterious absence from social media over the past week. The situation spiraled completely out of control when I happened to overhear Bethany at a Starbucks near my apartment building, frantically coordinating with Monica and two other friends to mass report my Instagram account for harassment while simultaneously discussing the logistics of meeting up with her TikTok followers during her Columbus trip. I sat 3 tables away with my headphones in, listening to her describe the planned meetups as just innocent conversations with fans who appreciated her content, apparently still not grasping that arranging dates while in a committed relationship constituted massive betrayal regardless of her intentions. The irony of her coordinating a harassment campaign against my truthful posts while planning actual infidelity was so absurd that I had to resist the urge to record the conversation for evidence. My follower count had grown to over 800 people by this point, including several of Bethany's own TikTok followers who had migrated to my account after discovering the drama and choosing to support honesty over manipulation. The comment sections became battlegrounds where people debated relationship boundaries, social media ethics, and whether my response had been proportionate to Bethany's deception, with the majority supporting my transparency about what had actually ended our relationship. Bethany attempted damage control by switching her TikTok account to private and posting vague inspirational messages about toxic people, moving forward from negativity, and focusing on self-love, but the screenshots I'd saved continued circulating among mutual friends who shared them as evidence of her systematic dishonesty. Her Instagram stories became increasingly desperate, featuring cryptic quotes about overcoming betrayal and fake people, apparently unaware that positioning herself as the victim while the evidence of her deception spread made her look even more manipulative and delusional. The most satisfying moment came when I received messages from 3 of her TikTok followers who had seen my posts and realized they'd been part of her elaborate cheating scheme, with one guy named Marcus sharing screenshots of their planned lunch date that coincided exactly with her supposed family visit to Akron. These followers started commenting on my posts with their own evidence of Bethany's deceptive behavior, creating a public record of her pattern of manipulation that she couldn't deny or explain away with more lies. The situation reached peak absurdity when Bethany's co-workers at the marketing firm began questioning her about the viral drama that was affecting her professional reputation, with several clients and colleagues following my account and witnessing the evidence of her calculated dishonesty firsthand. Monica later told mutual friends that Bethany had broken down crying at work when her supervisor asked about the social media situation and whether it would impact her ability to maintain client relationships built on trust and professional integrity. 2 weeks after the social media explosion, I met Riley at a coffee shop downtown while grabbing lunch between warehouse shifts, and our conversation flowed so naturally that I completely forgot about checking my phone for Bethany-related drama updates. Riley was a graphic designer who worked remotely for several Cleveland startups, and she had this refreshing directness about relationships and honesty that felt like drinking clean water after months of poison. We talked about work, travel, books, and our shared frustration with people who treated dating like a strategic game rather than genuine connection, and I found myself genuinely laughing for the first time in weeks. What struck me most was how Riley asked direct questions about what I wanted from life and relationships, then actually listened to my answers instead of calculating how my responses could benefit her personal agenda. When she mentioned seeing some of the social media drama around town and asked if I was the guy whose girlfriend had been catfishing her own relationship, I appreciated that she brought it up directly rather than pretending ignorance while secretly investigating my character through mutual connections. Our first official date happened naturally when she suggested we check out a new art gallery that had opened in the warehouse district, And I realized how refreshing it was to spend time with someone who paid for her own coffee without making it a political statement about independence or equality. Meanwhile, Bethany's desperate attempts to win me back intensified through increasingly pathetic intermediary missions and surprise appearances that made her look more unstable with each effort. Monica started texting me weekly with updates about how much Bethany missed me and how sorry she was, apparently not understanding that being sorry about consequences wasn't the same as being sorry about choices. The most ridiculous incident occurred when Bethany showed up at my apartment complex at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night, crying in the parking lot and begging me to just talk to her for 5 minutes about fixing our relationship. I watched from my living room window as she stood next to her car for over an hour, apparently expecting me to either come outside for a dramatic reconciliation scene or call the police so she could play the victim again. When I didn't respond to her public breakdown, she escalated to leaving handwritten notes on my car windshield with apologies, explanations, and increasingly unhinged promises about deleting all her social media accounts and dedicating her entire life to rebuilding my trust. The situation became genuinely concerning when Ashley revealed that Bethany had contacted a lawyer about potential cyberbullying charges against me, apparently believing that posting truthful information about my relationship status constituted harassment worthy of legal intervention. The lawyer apparently laughed her out of the office after reviewing the evidence and explaining that truth was an absolute defense against defamation claims, especially when the posts in question were about my own relationship rather than making false claims about her character. During this period, my relationship with Riley progressed with the kind of easy honesty that made me realize how exhausting it had been to constantly question Bethany's stories and motivations. Riley shared details about her previous relationships openly, including the mistakes she'd made and lessons she'd learned, creating the foundation of trust that I'd been desperately trying to build with Bethany through surveillance and detective work. The contrast became especially apparent when Riley suggested we make our relationship Instagram official after 6 weeks of dating, posting a simple photo of us together with a caption about being grateful for honest people, while Bethany had spent 10 months maintaining elaborate lies about her relationship status across multiple platforms. Our former shared social circle continued fracturing as more people learned the full extent of Bethany's deception, with several mutual friends reaching out to apologize for initially taking her side and admitting they'd experienced similar manipulative behavior from her in their own friendships. 3 months after discovering Bethany's secret account, I deleted my upgraded _n_free Instagram profile after moving to a better apartment in Ohio City and establishing a genuinely healthy relationship with Riley, having accomplished my goal of honest self-representation without needing to maintain a social media presence for validation. The timing felt perfect because Riley and I had reached the point where our relationship existed in real life rather than online performance, and I no longer needed digital evidence to prove I was living authentically. Ashley reached out one final time with information that provided complete closure to the situation, revealing that 2 other ex-boyfriends from Bethany's past had come forward with nearly identical stories about discovering secret social media accounts where she maintained single status while in committed relationships with them. The pattern was remarkably consistent across all 3 relationships, with Bethany using family events as alibis for meeting followers, gaslighting her boyfriends when confronted with evidence, and employing her family members as willing accomplices in maintaining elaborate deception schemes. Ashley shared that their mother Patricia had finally acknowledged the severity of Bethany's behavior after learning about the previous incidents, leading to a family intervention where they demanded she seek professional help for what appeared to be compulsive dishonesty and attention-seeking behavior rather than isolated relationship mistakes. The final confrontation came during my housewarming party when Bethany somehow learned about my new address and showed up uninvited with a desperate speech about how she'd changed and deserved another chance to prove she could be honest. I calmly explained to her in front of Riley and several friends that her pattern of behavior across multiple relationships demonstrated this wasn't about making mistakes or learning lessons, but about a fundamental inability to maintain honest relationships without seeking validation from external sources. When she tried to argue that everyone deserved forgiveness and second chances, I pointed out that forgiveness didn't require subjecting myself to future manipulation, and that she needed to work on her issues with someone qualified to help rather than expecting her victims to provide therapy and validation. Riley handled the situation with impressive grace, simply introducing herself to Bethany as my girlfriend and mentioning how much she appreciated dating someone who valued honesty and transparency in relationships, which seemed to finally drive home the reality that I'd moved on completely. Bethany left quietly after realizing that her dramatic appearance had only reinforced everyone's understanding of why our relationship had ended, and I never heard from her again through any direct or indirect channels. The most important lesson I learned was trusting my instincts about inconsistencies and red flags rather than accepting elaborate explanations for behavior that didn't align with someone's supposed commitment level. I realized that people who genuinely care about their relationships don't maintain secret accounts advertising their availability, don't coordinate elaborate alibis for meeting potential romantic interests, and don't gaslight their partners when confronted with evidence of deceptive behavior. Riley and I celebrated our 6-month anniversary by taking a weekend trip to Chicago, during which we had honest conversations about our relationship goals, future plans, and the importance of maintaining individual identities while building something together rather than performing relationship happiness for social media validation. Looking back, I'm grateful that Bethany's deception revealed itself when it did, because staying in that relationship would have meant accepting a fundamental lack of respect and honesty that would have poisoned any future we might have built together, and I learned that real relationships require mutual authenticity rather than elaborate performance art designed to maintain multiple contradictory narratives simultaneously.